Thank you, Family Gems, for having me. My name is Thobo Khathola. I'm the CEO and the Director of Lion Tutoring. And we have branches here in Botswana, which is Gaborone, Phalape, Francistown, and we have branches also in South Africa, in Rustenburg, Pretoria, and Johannesburg. Right, in terms of achievements, I think the biggest achievement we've had as an organization is just our pass rates. We continue to maintain 95% pass rates year on year for all our students who are homeschooling, who are doing schooling with us full time, and those who are being tutored. So we have students that are coming from the different schools like Lehigh, Rainbow, Lesedi Primary, etc. that come to us for tutoring. Then we have some that are doing schooling full time with us. Perhaps you find a student has written the exams and didn't do very well, then they would want to supplement some subjects. They take it up with us and we assist them with that. So our biggest achievement is our pass rate for our students. We have over 2,000 students per year in Gaborone, Phalape, Francistown in South Africa. And we recently even had some students as far as Canada, as far as Accra, Ghana, through the aid of our mobile app, which is an Android app. It works like Uber. So you just go onto the Google Play Store and you download our app, and it will show you the tutors in your city, and you're able to process payment after that. And then our other achievements, obviously behind me, you have the Forbes 30 under 30. We made it into the Forbes list at the age of 28. And it was quite an amazing experience because Forbes Africa has really acknowledged us for the hard work that we've been putting to just change the entrepreneurial landscape in our country and in our continent of Africa. So that's one huge opportunity that we managed to get. And we've also won 3 times the Botswana Youth Awards for the years 2016 to 2018. And we also won the Phalape Business Expo Awards. So I think those are some of the achievements. But the one that I really am proud of is our students who continue to really pass. 3 months, they are able to increase their grades by at least a 20% margin. Yeah, so COVID hit everyone. It was quite hectic, but we managed to migrate all our services online during the lockdown. So the first lockdown was quite a hard hit because everyone was still trying to learn, navigate ourselves around it. But we managed to get our students to do online learning. The minute the lockdown hit, we were able to migrate all our services to Zoom, to Skype, to Google Teams. And the advantage with us over the schools is our services had been one-on-one already. So you'd find it's a student and the tutor one-on-one. So you don't have a group of 30 or 40 students in a classroom, and the other one, the cat is crying, the other one, the baby's crying, the other one, they forgot to mute. So with us having just our individual tutorials was a huge advantage, even through the online tutoring. So we weren't as badly hit, and it even opened other markets because you'd get people as far as Accra, Ghana requesting for online tutoring, and you don't have to be in that country to deliver the service. You had somebody in Canada who's still our student now, and we just conduct the lesson over Skype, and the parent goes on to our online shop and they're able to process their payments like you buy online, the same way you can pay for your tutorial fees using our app. Right, so learning experience in the classroom, the first thing we need to really understand is that students have different needs. One, students have different capabilities, which is another one. I saw a picture that was trending on social media where they had a goldfish in a tank, they had a baboon, they had a crocodile, and they asked them to climb the tree. Obviously the monkey would climb the tree faster, or the baboon would climb the tree faster. The goldfish wouldn't, you get it. But if you are to ask them to swim, the crocodile and the goldfish will obviously swim way better than the baboon. So in short, students have different learning capabilities, different learning abilities. So it's up to a very good educator to sort of discover that for every individual student. Okay, for tutoring it's easy because usually our services are one-on-one, or if it's a group of 5. But I personally have been a teacher. I used to teach at Rainbow as a relief teacher for mathematics, and I could discover my students' different learning capabilities. The first thing I did, I made them write a test. So imagine there was that teacher that comes, day one, you're writing a test. So that would give me a feel of how the students' learning capabilities are. And then I would section them in the class. But I wouldn't even give them titles that these are the slower learners, these are this. I'll just give them groups like, you guys are the lions, you guys are the alligators, you guys are the cheetahs, you guys are the, just different animals. And it made it a very fun learning experience because I knew that some of them are actually more capable than the others, but they wouldn't know. So obviously I'll conduct my lessons knowing that they have different learning capabilities, and even the exercises that I would give would be better suited to their learning capabilities and abilities. And there are some students who are differently aided students, meaning you have to use different learning aids for them. Some audio-based students that, they always read things to themselves. Have you ever seen that student at the library? They would read it out, they would read so that they can hear it. Then you have students who are visually stimulated that would deal with mind maps. You'd find, there are colors, there are sticky notes, there are, even at university level, they used to laugh at this other student who was a master student, but she had different colored pens, she'd have sticky notes, she'd have mind maps and all of that. So even as an educator, we need to really assess and identify the different learning capabilities for students. Okay, so those are just broad sense. You actually get into even more depth because there are some students who are special needs students. So you'd find some students have epilepsy, some students have autism, some students have ADHD. A recent student that we had a condition called LNI. So that LNI, the student cannot see if you bring a white paper and you write with black ink like you would for, they can't see, like it's impossible for them to see. So they need to have a different color paper for them to conduct the lesson and different colored pens. So those are the broad sense, audio stimulated students and visually stimulated students. I was always the visual stimulated student, so I would always have charts in my study area. The formulas, if it's a physics formula, F is equals to MA, E is equals to MC squared, I would have those pasted on my room so that I can be able to visually stimulate myself. And then the students who are audio learners, most of the time, if you're a bad teacher, you'd always mistake that for disruption. Because the students are usually vocal in class, they're usually asking questions, they're usually interacting with one another. So as a good educator, you're supposed to get that skill and be able to cultivate it. Have more discussions in the class, bring a topic and let the students debate on that topic. So those are the broad ones, but even special education, we have tutors for special education at Lion Tutoring. Epilepsy, like I was saying, ADHD, the students are just hyperactive, ADD, hyperactive, and there's a tutor that is better suited for that condition because they know how to play with the student. Most of the time the parents think there's no work done because the student and the tutor are playing around, maybe in the garden, they don't even sit down on the chair and table, they're in the garden, but they have maybe their cue cards and they're going over the cue cards and it's a fun interactive environment. And there's students with autism where the numbers and the letters are inverted upwards or left to right. So a good tutor who's a special education tutor will be able to identify that condition. LNI, I've already explained it. So we also have special education tutors who can be able to identify those. So parents really need to identify that for the students because also with parents, they obviously buy certain things for the students. So if a student is a visually stimulated student like myself, you don't want to buy the sticky notes, you want to buy your charts, your manila paper, different color manila paper, and you want to get, I used to get in trouble with my parents a lot because I would just use boss stick on the wall, and then it will leave a stain on the wall. But the parents could maybe find notice boards, get a very good workman who can install a notice board. If a child is audio based, as a parent, you want to spend more time asking them questions. How did the lesson go? What do you think on this topic? Get the student to act as a teacher. Right, so if a child is hyperactive, the first thing that you want to do as a parent is to take them for testing. Or if you see that the student is a slow learner, because most of the time at the schools, they don't really go into depth depending on the school that your child is going to. With us, immediately once the tutor picks that the student is specially aided or special needs student, they will set a recommendation, then the student is taken for testing. Because us, we can't diagnose. I mean, even yourself, you can't just diagnose by looking at the student. Of course, you can see the signs that maybe the student is writing their name backwards or is hyperactive in class. We can see the signs, but we need a professional to test the student, to diagnose the student, to say this student has ADHD or this student has bipolar is another one. I used to have a student with a bipolar disorder. 1 minute we're laughing, the next minute we're crying, so even myself, it wasn't healthy for me as a tutor because, I would go through an array of emotions in a day, but having a special education tutor, that trained specifically for that kind of condition. So the first thing I would like to tell the parent is take your child for testing. There are many professionals in Gaborone, I think even Family Gems. If you go onto their website, you can be able to see somebody who can diagnose your child. A family doctor can maybe diagnose the child with a certain condition. Then by the time you come to Lion Tutoring, we know which specific tutor to avail for that condition. Because even at the school, at the universities, they will maybe do a Bachelor of Education in Special Education ADHD or Special Education Autism or Special Education Epilepsy. So it's up to the parent to really help the educators. Even at the schools, I know schools like the Learning Center, but they are very good with identifying that because they have a special education division. Schools like Northside, they have a special education division, and you don't have to take your child to the family doctor. They can diagnose the child there for you. But in our context, you would need to take the child to a family doctor, diagnose, and then bring them back so that we can be able to avail the relevant tutor. Okay, so in Botswana, our education, our grades keep declining year on year. That is something that we all know. And it seems as if we are kind of proud of it. I don't know why, but we need to get to a point where it really bothers us. Because, the education, it starts at an early age, and the years go by, it gets harder. You'll find I've had students in Form 3 who cannot write their names. Can you imagine that? We've had projects where we tutor students as far as Mokhonye Primary. We've had students Kobo Kanye, Kobo Ramotwa, remote areas, or even more remote areas like Boshaka, where a student in Form 3 but they can't write their name. And you ask yourself, how are they able to make it through the process? How are they able to pass that PSA? As if by hair like it. And this is not good because it becomes difficult for you to take the student back to relearn those kind of skills. So as a country, we really need to get serious when it comes to education. Even the jobs that we're training for, some of them are being taken over by technology. Tellers are losing their jobs because right now, even in Botswana, we have ATM machines that can deposit your money. So imagine if all the ATMs in Botswana could deposit money. How many tellers are going to lose their jobs? So those are some of the jobs that we really need to look at. Those are the courses that we need to look at even in our education system. Does it really make sense to train your workforce for a job that will be redundant in 5 or 10 years? But now we have students doing subjects like coding as early as pre-primary. The children can start to learn to code. when they get to standard 3, they can start being exposed to coding languages like C++, Java, C#, and those are the codes we are using even in our mobile apps. You know, we have people that are coding our mobile apps. That's the reason why now you can get a Lion Tutoring tutor in UK, in Accra, in Nairobi, Kenya, because we've coded it into our system. You can be able to download the app, you can see the tutors, you can pay online, then we send the tutor to your house. It's only because of coding. So even the fourth industrial revolution is something very nice that, you know, we all say, political leaders say, business people say, but fourth industrial revolution doesn't just mean typing on the computer. It doesn't mean having internet. It goes as far as coding. It goes as far as your human resources. What are we really training our students for? So those are some of the things that I would like to add regarding our educational landscape. Thank you, Family Gems, for having me.